With that, we proudly unveil the very first report unlocking a $200 billion opportunity in electric vehicles in India. Thank you so much. With that, moving towards the second one, India Electric Mobility Index. Would like to request all the dignitaries to please unveil the same.
CEO NITI Aayog Shri Subramaniam, Kamran, my friend, Secretary Heavy Industry, Shri Agarwal, Shri Sinha and friends. I think between Mr. Agarwal, BVR, Mr. Pai and Kamran, pretty much whatever needed to be said has been said. The evolution of EV in India, the challenges, the constraints and the way forward, the numbers all have been laid before you. I think what we are witnessing today globally in transportation is nothing short of a revolution in mobility. And it is driven largely by electric vehicles. And we have to be part of this. We are part of this. And we can't afford to get left behind. As the report which is being released today brings out, clean mobility is a sunrise sector with a $200 billion potential and a potential to create 5 crore jobs. Our transition to electric mobility, therefore, is not just a matter of global commitments. Of course, we have pledged to achieve net zero by 2070, and we have made strong commitments to reduce our GHG emissions intensity, and we have done very well so far. These commitments are no doubt important. But more than that, e-mobility for us is an economic imperative, it's an environmental imperative, and a strategic imperative. There are far-reaching implications for our energy security, for our air quality, human health, and industrial competitiveness. There may be a temporary or transient fall in demand for EVs in certain countries now and then, stemming from change in political environment or a pessimistic macroeconomic outlook now and then. In some countries, cash subsidies have declined, have been rolled back or have ended. There is now an RE magnet issue, you are all aware. These challenges also present us with opportunities. World over, people are now exploring other sources, working on other innovative technologies and so on. Government of India has launched a critical minerals mission recently, a very large mission. We have large reserves of rare earths. There is need to rapidly explore, survey, explore, mine and process them. But these transient disruptions notwithstanding, the big picture is that the future of automotive industry is electric. And consumers worldwide are increasingly interested in sustainable transportation options, but we also have to make them affordable. That is the challenge for the government and the industry. Working together, we have to realize that. And I'm told, for example, that one of the OEMs in a country, China, is now producing EVs which are a little cheaper than the corresponding traditional ICE vehicles. So the target of achieving 30% EV penetration by 2030 has to be seen in this overall, larger context. it also has to be seen in the context of Prime Minister's vision for Viksit Bharat. Many of our colleagues here have been involved in preparation of the Viksit Bharat vision and goals, targets and action plans. And as they all know, that Viksit Bharat is not only about GDP and per capita income and a higher standard of living. It's equally about providing a clean environment to our people, about safe and healthy environment. I mean, the fact is, that when Delhi, the national capital, we have to host an international conference and you have to decide about the timings, you do take into account you have to take into account the fact that during certain months, the air quality is so poor that you are not sure whether foreign delegates will come. And according to a recent news report, Delhi's toxic air has contributed to a surge in lung cancer cases, particularly in non-smokers. So EVs therefore have to be prioritized, along, of course, with several other measures in the national capital region and other cities where AQI is often multiple times the acceptable upper limit. And transport sector, as we know, is responsible for nearly 15% of India's GHG emissions. And automotive manufacturing sector accounts for roughly 7.1% of our GDP. And I don't think that we sometimes realize that it accounts for 49% of manufacturing GDP. So that is the size of contribution of the sector. And if the sector globally is moving in the direction of EVs, then our industry also has to accordingly reorient. Otherwise, we'll get left behind and lose out on this opportunity. So, Government of India has been, timely started implementing a comprehensive strategy to accelerate EV adoption, both supply side and demand side interventions. Many of them were outlined by the previous speakers. On the supply side, the big PLI scheme, which Kamran just now mentioned, 2 PLI schemes, in fact, both being run by his ministry. One for automobiles and auto components, the 26,000 crore scheme, and the other for advanced chemistry cells, which is an 18,100 crore scheme. And on the demand side, we started with FAME 1, which was a modest scheme, but it gave a kickstart, and then FAME 2, which was 12 times FAME 1, focused on public transport, charging infrastructure, so on. And now we have the PM E-Drive scheme with, I think, about 11,000 crores to ensure continued demand creation. And then there are tax benefits and exemptions from permit requirements, etc., which have further increased the attractiveness of EVs. In public transport, you have a new scheme now, the PM E-Bus Seva, which supports the deployment of electric buses by mitigating financial risks for operators and the payment security provided therein. And as a result of all these initiatives, India's EV sales have recorded impressive growth, which Shri Agrawal's presentation brought out in the past decade. From a modest, I think, 50,000 units in 2016, sales increased to about 21 lakhs, 2.08 million in 2024, which is about 20% annual growth rate compounded, which is a huge increase. However, it's all right to pat oneself on one's back, but we also have to acknowledge the fact that the adoption of EVs in India is at a slower pace than not only China, but even as compared to EU or the United States. So the global penetration is about 17% now, whereas we are at a little under 8%, 7.6 to be exact. EV penetration in China for buses, for example, is 50%, and for four-wheelers it is 38%. We have done well, very well in two-wheelers and three-wheelers. Some progress on buses. Progress in cars has been slow, and trucks has virtually not taken off. So, while we have done well so far, we have to revisit our strategy and our approach. We do need some new approach, new interventions, or a major step up so that we can reach the 30% target by 2030, which we have set for ourselves. So NITI has been holding consultations with all stakeholders. I also have had the occasion to interact with many stakeholders, ministries and friends from the industry in recent months. Many challenges have been highlighted. There is a reluctance on part of banks to provide financing for trucks and buses in particular. I think the Department of Financial Services could work with the banks to explore the possibility of longer tenure of loans for EVs because they have a longer lifespan. And we need to do much more. I think that is where DHI can play a role to demonstrate that the total cost of ownership over life cycle is lower than for ICE vehicles, but this needs to be demonstrated with credible data through an aggressive awareness program. And the report which is being launched about the $200 billion opportunity, we are talking of a mandate, and I think Mr. Agarwal was at pains to point out it's a soft mandate. It's a gentle mandate. It's not, in the nature of fixing a target nationwide immediately. That causes disruption. I don't think that is being advocated. Nothing across the board nationwide. I think we could persuade or work with large organizations, government departments, public sector undertakings, which have a large fleet of buses and cars, like the Ministry of Defense, the Central Police Forces, Maharatna companies, that they should purchase only electric vehicles when they replace their existing fleets. There are concerns about battery range. According to a global consumer survey, respondents were willing to switch from an ICE vehicle to EV if the vehicle is able to travel an average range of 437 kilometers on full charge. So then there is the problem of, which was mentioned, of inadequate public charging infrastructure, where the Ministry of Power has a big role to play. We have discussed with them. I have spoken personally to Secretary Power, who has worked with me earlier, and he has been very positive, because there are many DISCOMs which are taking far too long to provide power connections, even to the oil marketing companies. And some DISCOMs insist only on HT connection being taken, which is costlier, of course. And even most oil marketing companies have installed chargers which are slow and outdated. Then there are resident welfare associations who do not permit charging stations to be installed. There is lack of a unified app for locating charging stations, booking slots. I think DHI is now working through their organization BHEL to rectify this, to remedy this situation. And fixed charges being levied by DISCOMs are high, which makes the charging cost very high. So I think we need a nuanced and disaggregated approach, because overall numbers for the country do not always tell the complete stories. Our approach has to be more segmented, region-specific, city-specific. Trucks and buses, for example, which constitute only 4% of the vehicles, but contribute 50% emissions. Therefore, there is an urgent need to tackle this segment. And on the other hand, the big cities, Delhi for example, even cars may be accounting for a very high percentage of emissions, and therefore we could work with the states to work on a more aggressive EV push in the big cities as part of their comprehensive plans to improve air quality. And some cities and some states are doing that. I'm told, for example, that in Mumbai, the Brihan Mumbai Electricity Supply and Transport West aims to achieve 100% electric fleet by 2030. And that's how I think in the index Maharashtra figures high, I think next only to Delhi. I'm happy that many ministries have taken note of these issues which we mentioned just now, and they are working to resolve them. Ministry of Power has issued a guidance to states to adopt time of day pricing policy, but they will have to work with the DISCOMs to provide electric connections speedily. Ministry of Petroleum has assured us that in future only fast chargers will be installed, and unified app you are already working on. In NITI, we have set up a small group comprising various ministries to address all these issues in a coordinated and timely fashion. State governments will have to play a very crucial role in developing the robust EV ecosystem, because it is they who have control over road transport, over urban planning and power distribution. So I think this index it is not meant to name and shame. This is a movement which has just started. But our experience has been, that indices of this kind, they promote healthy competition amongst states, and I think that is what this index is meant to do. And the commitment of states to e-mobility, I think, is evident. Many states, I think 29 states and UTs have by now notified their EV policies, and this index will also, I think, help them draw lessons in terms of, the best practices which they can easily adopt, fiscal and non-fiscal incentives. And this report, I think it gives a very comprehensive overview of the current challenges and opportunities, which are and actionable recommendations for the ministries, for the states, for the industry, for all stakeholders. I think in conclusion, I would say that electric mobility we should not see, as a costly commitment in view of international obligations, but a rare confluence of opportunities. It can significantly reduce our dependence on imported fossil fuels, lower the cost of transportation, and help our cities reclaim the air. And at the same time, it can catalyze a new wave of manufacturing, innovation, and employment, from battery production and vehicle assembly to charging infrastructure and digital solutions put together. It's a complete ecosystem with ripe potential for rapid growth. So I congratulate our team in NITI Aayog, WRI, ministries, states, all who have worked to help put this index and the report together. And I look forward to enthusiastic participation of all in taking these initiatives forward. Thank you.